beautiful day, and I understand a couple of these empty seats. It's May, and it's beautiful, and people have plans in May. However, all of us are here because we love and respect Barbara. We want to share that with her, and as much as we want the treats. So, we have to take a moment to thank the kitchen crew. And where's Judy Winkler? She was here. Judy? Is she in the kitchen still? Let's get Judy out of the kitchen. She's been working tirelessly since right after the Cornerstone event to get all these wonderful treats here for us. And they are beautiful. Okay, good man. Thank you, Judy. Judy and all the bakers that contributed to this. It was one of those nice ARC people coming together. So thank you for that. We have hopefully all gotten our name tags. We were pretty picky about that. It's been a while since we've seen some of you. And I don't believe everyone has taken the time yet to take one of the 3x5 cards and write a note to Barbara. We do not have a guest book on purpose. We'd like you to put your name on here with a special memory, or, I'm going to have possession of these for a little while. Something she did that was really funny would be nice to have. But collectively, we have a good portion of the story of Barbara's contribution to the DD community in our heads, and I think each of our pieces put together will make a nice memory book for Barbara. But I'm not sure she has trouble remembering any of it, which is why I'm going to be really, remember that one? Carried away by the caveman. Okay, I have a little present here made by Snail. Kimberly Sewell, where are you, Kimberly? She goes by Snail. There she is, thank you. She's in our art program, and she works magic with fabric. And I was thinking I would love to give Barbara something other than her own memories back that'll be stronger than mine. So what we've done, I get to open this for you, Barbara. is constructed a hat. And I was imagining a hat for Barbara. And the only thing I could come up with was like an Indian headdress. I thought of all the feathers that belonged in her cap. And I thought how awkward that would be. So with Snail's help, we have fake feathers. We have the logos of the Democrats, Willamette Neighborhood Housing, the ARC, and Benton County Transportation, Special Transportation on here, our current activities. And I won't read you all these feathers, but on them is embroidered major accomplishments of Barbara's. So we're thinking that as chemo devastates her lovely white hair, she can wear feathers in her cap, or Snail thoughtfully made it reversible, so it's very plain on the outside, just a lovely blue tie-dye. So, here you go, Barbara. You don't have to go much now. Oh yeah, oh yes. She says it beats the blue wig I gave her. I thought that would go well with her Wonder Woman cape and other things. Well, Bill Lynch is here today to do the emceeing, and we all know and love Bill Lynch, I think. Is there anyone who doesn't? Oh, someone doesn't know him. Okay, that means I need to know what he's doing right now. Bill Lynch has been with the DD community as a leader for a long, long time, much longer than I. And everyone that I know loves it. And if you don't, come talk to me and we'll work it out. So, I don't see that possibility. Bill, would you come up, please, and take this microphone from my hand?
I'll do that.
And feel free to say better things about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Hi, Doug. I've said hi to a lot of people that I know, but not everybody. And some of you were kind of tacitly lying. You don't know me. Not all of you know me, but hey, Susan. So anyway, I'm really happy to be here. This is a great thing that we're doing. The organizers should be lauded. The weatherman should be lauded. It's a beautiful day, beautiful room, and a beautiful person that we're honoring today. So it's my pleasure to be here and kind of kick things off. How many of you have heard the slogan, label jars, not people? Okay, it's a popular slogan in the disability field, the advocacy arena. People don't like to have be known by labels, medical labels, whatever. But I'm here to tell you, Barbara has had many labels over the years, and mostly good labels, but probably a mix. There's probably a mix in there. But I know, and you'll learn from watching the slideshow, that at various times and on a number of occasions, she's been known as Madam President, Madam Secretary, Madam Treasurer, probably at least once Madam Secretary Treasurer or Treasurer Secretary. I don't think she's ever just been known as Madam, and that's probably a good thing. But let's see, there's others. I learned she had the label of Queen in her early years, her formative years, which could say something about the result. Certainly volunteer, art historian. She was the go-to historian. Chief parliamentarian, force to be reckoned with, lots of labels. But the label that stuck, I think the longest, and with the most people, is friend. And Barbara, for me, has been what I consider the best kind of friend. A friend who can challenge you, a friend who can disagree, friends that can disagree and still respect each other and like each other even more, because you have that freedom and that trust to be able to disagree and come out of it friends. So I want to thank you personally for all of your friendship over the years and your support, and I just love the fact that we're still here and enjoying life together. So I know there are a number of people that are scheduled to come up here and say a few words, and they're on the program. We've got at least one addition. But also, as you jot down things on the blue cards that you're going to give to maybe Karen to give to Barbara, if there's a story or a memory or a tribute that you want to share briefly with the group, there's going to be an opportunity to do that. So first we'll hear from the people on the program, and then you'll get your opportunities. So I'd like to invite up John Morris. Is John? Okay, here's John. And John is current president of the ARC of the U.S.?
No. Benton County.
Okay. Oh, well, it says ARC. Maybe it would have meant ARC us. That was Karen's note. All right. Well, I just promoted you.
Things I respectfully decline. My role is as president of the ARC of Benton County, and I've been in that role for now almost a year. And I met Barbara shortly before joining the board. I did a little bit of work with the board. I'll talk about that later during the annual meeting. I asked Karen to help me a little bit, Karen Frederick, to help me a little bit with some of the things that most of you probably already know about, but I knew there was a lot behind Barbara's gentle eyes and fierce spirit. And so I wanted to know a little bit more about her. As you've seen from the slides, she has been the president of the ARC US. She was significant in bringing the ARC of the United States into his current role as a leader for championing the needs of the intellectual and developmentally disabled population. She has been involved with improvements in the ARC. For example, she wrote the first position statements for the ARC of US and updated its bylaws, its policies, and procedures. So she's been an ultimate bureaucrat, which of course for me, and I'll talk more about myself later, but I'm a bureaucrat too, so Barbara, we kind of connect on that level. She's been accused of being a bureaucrat by her presidential opponent. When she ran for president of the ARC US, the opponent said, well, she's just a bureaucrat. And Barbara responded, why wouldn't the ARC want me to be what I do best? So Barbara has been very influential, as we've seen, looking at the slides, all of the different organizations that she's been involved with. During her tenure, the Americans with Disability Act was passed. She negotiated the reaffiliation of the ARC of New York, so they had become disenfranchised, and she brought them back into the fold. She represented the ARC of US in Paris for the International Congress of Mental Retardation, and she made many lasting friends for the ARC. One of those is the current executive director for the ARC of the United States, Peter Burns. And so that we don't put you behind a wall of flowers, Barbara, there's a bouquet here that comes from the ARC US in appreciation for your service. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Next up is Representative Sarah Gelser.
Thank you all very much for coming out here today. And I need to express my apologies first. I'm used to going places and speaking to groups of people, and I've been nervous about this all week. And the part that I've been most nervous about is kind of holding it together. Because, see, there I go already. I want to tell you a little bit about how I got to know my friend and mentor, Barbara Sackett, who has probably been one of the most influential people in my life and my work and in the life of my child, beginning even before my child and I were born. And that makes it very difficult to, Barbara's made me speechless, trying to think about what it is that I want to say to her and to all of you today. So I want to tell you how I met her and what she's done for us. When my son Sam was very little, I was invited to join the board of the ARC of Benton County. And that is the first place that I got to meet the force that is known as Barbara Sackett. And for those of you that know Barbara, you know that if she asks you to do something, you're probably not going to say no, even if you try, because she will always have a reason why you're going to do that thing. So the very first instruction that I got from Barbara was that I was going to join the membership committee of the ARC, which meant that I was going to go with her and Louise Teeter over to set things up and figure out how we were going to increase the membership of the ARC of Benton County. And those were great mornings. I learned a lot from the three women. And Barbara then encouraged me that I needed to spend more time with the ARC of Benton County. Around that time, I joined the school board because I had an interest in special education and education generally. And Barbara came to me and asked if I would sign up to run to serve as the vice president of the ARC of Benton County. And I told her no, that I couldn't do that. I didn't have time because I was serving on the school board and I was going to have this campaign. And I'd never done a campaign before, and that made me nervous. And she said, if you will agree to be vice president of the Arc of Benton County, I will agree to be your campaign treasurer. That was in 2001. And I ended up getting a really good deal out of that because Barbara has remained my campaign treasurer until about 3 weeks ago. I believe that under Barbara's stewardship, my campaign has had fewer violations, fines, or mistakes than any other campaign in the state. Because if you know Barbara, you know that she is meticulous. And Barbara doesn't make mistakes. Everything is organized and it's put together just right. What was really lucky for me during this time wasn't that Barbara was doing such a great time taking care of the books. It was that she was doing a great job mentoring me. Mentoring me as a mother and mentoring me as an advocate. And sometimes challenging me and the thoughts that I had about what we should be doing in our community or what I should be doing as a parent. Even a few weeks ago, I called her and asked her about something related to transition, and she said, well, why would you do that? And I said, well, that's what everybody does. And she said, well, it doesn't mean that's what you should do. And she gave me many, many better ideas. As I was watching the pictures circle through in the presentation here, I was thinking back to the very first dinner that I went to. I believe it was the night of my induction into the board of the Arc of Benton County, and I didn't know Barbara very well at that time. And there weren't many other young families at this event, but Sam was probably about 3, and it was the time when I was really starting to learn about the history of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the United States. And I recognized, looking around that room, that the founders, and it wasn't just Barbara, it was the people that worked with Barbara as well in this county, and she was pointing that out in the back there, that there's a we to the work that gets done, which is another wonderful thing about Barbara. She's generous with credit, even when she's the motivator. But recognizing all of the opportunities that are available to my family and my son that wouldn't have been if it wasn't for the vision and the work and the volunteerism and the insistence and the persistence and the demands of Barbara and others that were working with her. And these things go all the way from my son having access to early intervention programs from the time that he was 6 months old, which had changed his ability to walk and talk and eat and do things independently, to when he went to kindergarten, being able to walk through the doors of a public school, which is not something that he could have taken for granted without the work that Barbara and others with her did, to moving into adulthood and knowing that he has a place in this community as an equal member of our community where he can look for work, for meaningful work, and make choices about what it is that he wants to do with his time. And Barbara has demonstrated how carrying that forward into the community means that advocacy has to move into the mainstream of the community, which is why Barbara has been such an incredible advocate, not just in the political world, but for affordable housing. Who can live in the community without access to affordable integrated housing? Who can live in the community without access to affordable and accessible quality transportation through her work in the Special Transportation Committee? There's so much that Barbara has done. I think that the biggest thing that she has done is be a mentor and to demonstrate that it's okay to push hard for things to change, to know that just because things have always been one way doesn't mean that's the right way. Maybe it was the right way once, but it means we have to be willing to take it down and rebuild and do better. And that is what I've learned from Barbara. So Barbara, thank you for everything that you have done for me, that you have done for my family, that you have done for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities all across the United States, and everything that you have done to demonstrate how mothers and bureaucrats are people to be reckoned with. They should not be underestimated, and certainly you should not. Barbara, we love you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you on all of the work that I know that you still plan to do. Thank you very much.
Representative did make it through without breaking down, but she took all of the Kleenex from the podium. So the rest of you that know, that's all right. Just warning the next few speakers. Marcy Ingledew, the executive director of the ARC of Oregon, and she does want the Kleenex. And if you use them, don't hand them down to the next person, okay?
good afternoon. As Bill said, my name is Marcy Engelbu, and I am currently the Executive Director for the ARC Oregon. And I share with Sarah her same feelings about when Karen said, will you come speak? And I'm like, I want to, but I just don't know if I can make it through it. In fact, it reminded me of a time years ago when I was young, and Barbara and I decided that we would, at one of our conventions, we would share a presentation together at lunch. And it was about the fact that I had a young child that was born with Down syndrome, and then her child was already an adult with Down syndrome. And we were going to talk about our journeys and how that worked, and we spent a lot of time gathering pictures and putting our presentation together. And by then, I had been involved quite a long time with the ARC, and so I thought, oh, I can do that. Because when I was very young, when my son was first born, I was very young. It was a very emotional time, and it was hard just to stand up in front of people and talk. But I was a pro by then. I was going to do this presentation with Barbara, and since she was older than I was, we decided she would go first. And so we put this great PowerPoint together, and I had my part done, and we had practiced it. And so when we got up there, I really listened to what she said, as as we all listen to Barbara. When Barbara speaks, don't we all listen? And I was so touched, even though I had heard her story numerous times, so touched again by it, that when I got up there to do my part, I think I cried through the entire presentation. And I was so disappointed with myself because we did have a great presentation. People said it was great and everything, but the idea was that still I had so much to learn. And so really, when I first met Barbara, those were the days when I was a young parent. I lived in Southern Oregon, and I was just starting out on my journey. And being in a more rural community, there wasn't very much out there for parents. We were very fortunate that we had early intervention and early childhood special education, but we didn't have a lot going on in Southern Oregon. And so I remember hearing about the ARC. And so there was a chapter of the ARC in our community, and I went to a meeting and found out that at the meeting, it was really a group of foster care providers that really, the mission at the time was just to provide some social activities for respite. And when I came to the door, I said, I'm a young parent, and I just want to learn about the ARC and learn about how to advocate for my son. I said, well, we really don't deal with kids, so, we don't know what we can do to help you. Well, that kind of infuriated me. So I said, well, what else is going on in this community? And I went to a board meeting, and you know what happens when you go to a board meeting at the ARC. I left the board meeting as vice president. I didn't have Barbara asking me like she asked Sarah. I just went to the meeting, and then I said things like, well, why aren't we doing this for kids or families? And then I was vice president. So I started volunteering, and really, as you probably all know and probably feel the same as we all do, the ARC is really our family. It's not just an organization. And so I got very involved with my local chapter, and was very happy to know that the state chapter was there to help us, and the national chapter was there to help us. But of course, when you're working at the local level, that's what you do, especially when it's your family. You give up lots of time and energy, and you work really hard. But then I remember we had one of our conventions. It was in Southern Oregon. And that was when I actually met Barbara for the first time in person. Of course, I had heard about her. She was the legend of the ARC, but I had never met her yet. And so we had a convention in Ashland, and it was great. It was fun. And I remember probably the week after the convention, my phone rings, and it was Barbara. And she said, we were wondering if you would come join us and be on the board for the ARC I was amazed, and of course I said yes, because by then I had been involved with the Ark long enough to know the possibilities that the Ark brings, the family that it brings, the mission, and the very, very much rich history. And so being a part of that was very important to me. Got involved at the state level, and as time went on, went to lots of national conventions, always went to our state convention, was always welcomed by that family of volunteers, that family of members of the Ark. So it was very interesting that as time went on, the next thing Barbara said to me was, you know, Oregon has had 4 national presidents that were from Oregon. And we really think that you're going to be one of those national presidents. And I said, oh, no, that's not going to happen. I can barely handle what I'm doing here now. And so the one thing that I probably regret the most is that I probably disappointed Barbara. And does anyone in this room ever want to disappoint Barbara? No. But I remember telling her, going to lunch with her one day and saying, you know, I've been on the board, I'm currently president for the Ark of Oregon, but I'm thinking of becoming a staff person. I'm thinking of, if I'm going to work outside the home, then I might as well do what my passion is and do what is going to work for me. And I want to become a staff member at the Ark Oregon. And I think she was disappointed in me because that ruined my chances to become president at the Ark National. But for me, it was having the opportunity to even come close to the level of work that Barbara has done for us over the years. I mean, she wasn't maybe a staff person at the Ark, but she was very much involved in the government, in her job at the state, and pursuing her advocacy work for the Ark. And she has very big shoes to follow. And so I had hoped that even though I wasn't going to stay a volunteer, that I could still stay in her good graces by becoming a staff person. And so 8 years later, I'm still here. I still believe in the Ark. I still, every so often, need to call Barbara and say, yes, we let you go off the board, and no, you are no longer the treasurer, or you're no longer the vice president or the president, but when you have those questions you need answered, she has the experience, she has the knowledge, and she's always there no matter what. And so that's been a huge thing for me, and I really echo the things that Sarah said also, because she has been a true mentor for me and will always be my mentor. And there's numerous mentors out there, but in each way those mentors bring you something so important and something so valuable to what you do. And so, Barbara, thank you so much for all you've done for all of us, and particularly for me. Thank you.
Quick story to follow up. Both Representative Gelser and Marcy mentioned that you just can't say no to Barbara. She asked me to do something twice, and twice I said yes. And that was when Barbara was president of the Ark of the United States, she asked me to be on the National Communications Committee. And but little did I know that she was going to give the committee the thankless task of changing the name of the entire organization. And granted, it had a name that was an albatross for the association. There were words that needed to be got rid of. So anything we came up with was going to be better than what we had. But every creative idea we came up with got shot down until we finally hit on the brilliant idea of just calling the Ark and making it official. And standing for nothing but its mission and its values. So another thing that Barbara gets a lot of credit for is bringing the National Association and all the local chapters, state chapters, and local chapters up to date in their language and kind of leading the charge on that. So thank you. once again. And I'm going to ask Steve Sheets to come up next. And Steve, as many of you know, I haven't seen him in ages. And he's been, ever since he left, he retired as the DD program manager from the county, he's been lugging around 30 pounds of paper. So let's get the explanation for that. You need a page turner like a pianist? Okay.
But no, I'm gonna, can you hear me okay? I've never used the hand mic before. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never used the hand mic before, and actually after what everybody said today and their glowing comments about Barbara, I felt that I would focus on something a little bit different. And some of these things that I've talked to Barbara about have been in a much more comfortable situation in her front room. On the other hand, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to read a scenario about how I got into Benton County and what Barbara's value to me was in that process. Right up to the mouth? Okay. So I'm going to go through that, and then I want to do a short list of very meaningful thank yous that I have for Barbara. So this was in the spring of '78. I just graduated from school and relocated in Salem, and coincidentally my grade school friend, Lon LaJoy, who was a psychologist at Benton County Mental Health and who says hi to you, stopped by and said that there was a job position opening for a services coordinator, but he didn't know much about it. He said the job description was fairly nebulous, meant you had to be a little bit of everything at all times, and the clients might be newborns and people up into their 80s and 90s. He said that Barbara Sackett was the key to all this, and that she basically developed the position statewide, and he thought she worked really hard, was gone a lot, and was holding down both her county job and her new full-time state job at the same time. I was lucky enough to get an interview, and then was there and had actually an infection in my mouth that day. And I don't think I was able to articulate any words that people could understand. But what was very important to me is that, Barbara, that you were very kind to me, you were listening to me, and whatever you heard, you were not dismissive of me, and that meant a big deal to me at that point. I really appreciate that. So, about 2 weeks later, I put foot into your office, or my new office. And what I found was something that I would describe as something quite Spartan. I think that would be the term. There was your desk, and it was probably an upgrade from the card tables that we were used to in other counties. There was also a half-time CETA worker secretary, a file cabinet, a 1960s map of Benton County, a copy of some of the state statutes, in case I wanted to look at those. And then something that I called an architectural gaffe, and that is the clinic's bathroom was built into your office. Instead of an outside door to the hallway, the clinic's restroom was in your office. People had to come in through your door, take a left, and go into the bathroom, and then come out, see everybody, and then go on out again. In addition to the desk, on the desk there were 2 Rolodexes, one for community services and another one for the clients. I began to count the client Rolodex cards and ended up with 150. Somewhere in graduate school, we learned that maybe 30 to 40 was an appropriate number. I went to the file cabinet, picked up my client file and opened it and found a brief summary note. And then I couldn't believe it, so I picked up another client file. And there was a note in it that said, "Call me." And so that's what I did. In about 2 or 3 minutes, I called you and asked for your help. and you very much encouraged me and helped me in what I was doing. I asked about the files, and you eagerly filled me in. I started to jot down ideas and what you were saying as fast as I could. I couldn't believe all you knew about the clients and their families and what they needed. You knew of special circumstances in Alpine. Remember that part? Of another family's cultural resistance to public services. Of another family's need to appeal an SSI denial. Clients who didn't have food for the holidays, who needed financial support for summer programs, who needed a big brother, or needed free dental work, or would benefit from a psychiatric consult. You also knew who was the best provider agencies and who within those agencies to contact. You told me about parent training, People First, who to see at Voc Rehab, to contact Joan Sewell at AFS, how to get camp scholarships, about Sheila and Ken West and the guys down at Corvallis Hotel, the ARCS projects, the teachers I might meet with in order to work on projects. Thank goodness I knew Mo Ruzick from OSU already. And that I needed to meet with Mary Hire, bless her heart, to work on some new ideas she wanted to discuss. From early on, while I felt overmatched, you provided the support and direction I needed. No other person within the mental health clinic knew about the job entailed. Only you, and you only. So that's how it started out. And from that point, there was many committees and projects, not only locally, but at the state, and I appreciate your insight and all the direction that you gave me. But I have a list of brief thank yous that I want to share. I want to thank you for always being kind and respectful to me and fair. And thank you for talking to me about other things besides work. Thank you for talking about sports. And thank you for talking about the Beavers. Thank you for, when you were at the state, never forgetting those people that you knew here first. Particularly those that didn't have high profiles or guaranteed funding. Namely, people without families, those who were the very poorest, those who were street people, people with disabilities who were put early into the nursing homes, those with the most severe and multiple disabilities, those with dual diagnoses that included mental health issues, and those on wait lists, among others. I thank you for that. Thank you for reminding me that people may not be ready to make decisions or life changes just because there is project money available or a social service person wants them to change. And that planting a suggestion and being supportive might be the most important contribution that makes the difference in a month, in a year, or maybe 5 years. It's one of the meanings of developmental, and people change over time. And finally, WWBD. From the first days of the Developmental Disabilities Office in '78 to the growth of the community programs to even our present-day services, I can speak for the DD office in saying that WWBD provides the underpinnings to what we do. This means whenever there's a dilemma or a major decision, we think out loud or to ourselves, what would Barbara do? I'm telling you, it helps tremendously. On behalf of myself, the County DD program, and so many others, thank you for your leadership, clear thinking, and service.
So Barbara, do you feel about 107 now? I mean, after we go through all these litanies of the accomplishments and the influence you've had over the years, our goal is not to make you feel older than you are today. But pretty impressive personal history, and one that's touched so many people. Jim Moorfield. Willamette Neighborhood Housing. Welcome.
For the past, I think 11 years, Barbara has been on the board of Willamette Neighborhood Housing. And the thing that I knew her before that, but the thing that I appreciated the most about her is that she's one of the people in the world that does what's necessary. And if at one moment what's necessary is changing the world, she does that. If one moment what is necessary is changing lives, she does that. And if the next moment we need 300 hors d'oeuvres for our reception, she does that too. I don't know, I think she's cooked like thousands of hors d'oeuvres over the last few years for our events. And she's really good at it. During the time, her time with Willamette Neighborhood Housing, I looked it up just before coming here. Under her leadership, we have 285 new homes for people, affordable housing for people to live in. Tonight, over 700 people will have a decent place to live because of Barbara's leadership. Now, Barbara's over there shaking her head no, because she knows it takes a lot of people. But it takes asking a lot of people too to do what you want. And she's very good at that. One of the appreciations I have as an executive director of an organization too is that if I ever needed a little understanding from the board, I always knew it was going to come from Barbara. And I'd be going on and on about something that I was wanting to do or something that I wanted the board to say yes to, and I might have like 2 pages of presentation, and people are starting to fall asleep and watch the clock, and I'm into my 750th word, and then Barbara will just in maybe 10 words say, well, this is what we need to do, and everybody votes yes. We were talking in a meeting recently about what we wanted to do to thank Barbara, and we're all struck today about the example that she sets. And that's why a lot of you have gotten involved in all the activities to make a better world that you have, because Barbara asked, because she set an example. So we decided in our meeting that the best way we could say thank you is by letting more people know her story. And so we asked John Harris at Horsepower Productions and Becky Barrett teamed up and shot a video and interviewed Barbara and asked her to tell her story. And so I'm going to shut up and I'm going to take my lesson of using fewer words, and we're going to watch Barbara tell her story for a few minutes.
That was great. Thanks to Jim and your organization for putting that together, a lasting tribute to Barbara. Adds a couple of more labels that I wasn't aware of. Pioneer comes from Pioneer stock, and it's not surprising that it's very appropriate. Barbara being such a pioneer in our field of developmental disability advocacy. Another label, movie star. Wow, you did great. Was that a tight script, or was that? Oh, and I believe I got this right. A copy of that film can be yours for a $1,500 donation to the Arc of Benton County. I may have the figure wrong, but Karen, you can correct me if need be. 1,500? Okay. All right.
Might have to negotiate with Jim.
Okay, we have one more scheduled speaker, and that is Sharon Phipps from the Benton County Special Transportation.
Good afternoon. I'm not a speaker, so I'm going to make this brief. What I would like to say is I met Barbara about 7 years ago, and it seems that most of you probably know her a lot longer. She and I came together at the Special Transportation Committee, And what I quickly discovered was 3 things about Barbara that maybe you already know. I found that she was highly intelligent. I found that she was passionate about the developmental disability community and seniors. And I found that she was so willing to work to make our community better. She had a strong, strong will, and I knew immediately that this committee was going to work and it was going to be a good committee. We provide transportation for seniors and people with disabilities. Barbara's been that committee chair for long before I came on 7 years ago. And she immediately discovered that I didn't know a whole lot about finances. And she gave me lots of trouble about it, but she was right. We had to figure it out. She has helped us as we have expanded the program, as we have contracted the program. She's looked at the finances with a keen eye, and any of you who've worked with her, you know how she can go through your finances and find the smallest little mistake. She found them all, found them all. But what I want to do today is talk to you about a little nursery rhyme. You might have sung it to your children, and it goes like this. The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the bus go round and round all day long. Barbara has made the wheels on our buses, sedans, and minivans go round and round. Her strong advocacy for people with disabilities and seniors have made those wheels go round and round. So the next time when you're out in Benton County and you see a bus, a dial-a-bus, Benton County dial-a-bus, a minivan or a sedan, and you see it going by, please say, the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. And then say, thank you, Barbara, because she has helped to make that program so very strong. Barbara, thank you on behalf of Benton County, the people in this community, and the staff. You have made the wheels go round and round.
Thank you, Susan. And that's it for our scheduled speakers, but I promise that we have a little bit of time, and we do have a little bit of time, but emphasis on the little, because I know the Arc of Benton County has some business to attend to as well. But 1 minute stories, testimonials, a wish for Barbara. All right, let's start in the back. I'm going to try to make it convenient for you and just walk around with the mic.
Okay, thank you. I had the pleasure to hang out and work with and play games with her daughter, Leanne. And the great thing about Rolf Hansen and having Barb on your side is you can always call her if there's something wrong. She has gone grocery shopping for like ever. Probably a good 15 years, every Monday. And since this is happening, she hasn't been able to, but Leanne always calls me and says, well, my mom's going to the doctor, so we'll go grocery shopping with her another time. And so we're going to miss the grocery shopping with you, and it's very hard because I've taken it over. But the one thing that I was really appreciative is we had some respite clients sometimes over with Leanne. And we would call the county, or the program coordinator or something would call the county and say, you know, it's really not working out with this respite person in Leanne. When are they moving out? You said they were going to be a month. It's been 6 months. And I said, oh, I'll just call Barb. And I would call Barb and say, you know, Leanne's having a really hard time with this person. And she's been here for a while. Can you give us an idea when they might be, you know, moving on, you know, placing another person? And it was within 2 weeks that they got a placement for this person. And it was just really nice to know that she advocates for her dog. I mean, not just statewide or anything else. She's there for her personally. And she's there for me personally too. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy. We'll work this side of the room for a moment.
Thanks, Bill. My name is Karen Staley, and I have had the honor of being one of Barbara's kids that she has mentored for years. I don't even know what I'm, but my son Jim, who is now 47, was, I think, maybe 8, and Barbara saw this dumb young mother that knew nothing about disabilities. She took me under her wing, taught me not everything she knew, because my brain is not that big, but it taught me, and so I have followed a lot of her footsteps. I too was president of the Arc of Oregon. I too was president of the Arc of the United States. I don't want to follow your footsteps right now, thank you, but I love you and I wish you the best.
Thank you, Karen. Joe.
My name is Joe Miner, and I served on board when Barbara was on board, and also I helped with the Berry Group when she was there, and also the potato group when we had the potato bar. And I want to thank her for giving me some support. And I do have to dial back, so I'm going to keep the wheels rolling.
Bounce back and forth. Not to show favorites here. I'll get back to you. Jana.
Don't show favorites. I just wanted to, I'm Jana Starr. I was executive director of the Arc of Oregon at the time that Barbara was president of the Arc of the United States. And that was probably one of the most fortunate job changes I ever made. And we just had so much fun together. But there's a little known piece of that I believe John referred to it when Barbara represented the United States in Paris at the International League. It was used to be called the International League for Mental Handicap or some ridiculous name like that. But we were brought there by the late, great, wonderful Gunnar Dubois, who was so involved internationally, and Gunnar was well past retirement age at that time, and trying to bring into new interests. And I remember sitting in a meeting with Barbara, and while all of the developed countries, the United States and Germany and France, we were talking about our services and even things like supportive employment. And we sat in a meeting and we were listening to some third world countries. And I think it was Malaysia, but a lady got up there and said, you know, this is all really great. You know, supportive employment, getting people jobs and school, wow, post-school training. And she said, but we don't have roads 9 months out of the year. And Barbara and I looked at each other and said, wow, there's just a bigger perspective here. And to Barbara's credit, she took on that task for the Arc of the United States. There was very small interest, a very interested group, but a small group of people that are interested in international work. And Barbara carried forward liaisons with ARCs or like organizations in Mexico and other parts of the world for years after that. Who knows that anymore? Do we really still do it? But thanks to Barbara Sackett, there's folks out there carrying on outside of our country.
Over here and then over here.
I've known Barbara Sackett, and with my mom Sally knows Barbara Sackett, probably since 67, right after Julia's car accident. And I think part of the reason why I probably got through school is for the fact that Barbara, I said, talked to my parents, said to put me through special education. I went through and repeated both first and second grade numerous times. And I give Barbara a lot of thanks for being able to talk with Sally and be able to get me through where I am today, even with the situation was very hard and budget as well. And I give Barbara a lot of appreciation and thanks for everything.
Okay. My first experience with Barbara was really the year that Tass took a Mullen, I guess, to the National Convention. And Barbara was the president that year. Well, I happened to be the president of the local that year. And let me tell you, Barbara sets the standards high. I was never had as much fun at that convention as any other one. Every time she was in the room, she was introducing me to all these famous people. And, you know, every other convention I went to after that, it was just kind of, So thank you, Barbara, for that wonderful hobnobbing experience. And I have to
Thank you.
I'm Rick Worston, and I first met Barbara in 1985 when I was working at Lynn County Developmental Disabilities as a skills trainer. And I kept hearing, well, what was happening was that my program was going to have a state inspection, the first on-site it's called, that I'd ever been at. So I was 30 years old, and I kept hearing again and again about the person who was going to come down and inspect my program. And there was this word that I kept hearing. I'd heard it before, but never this many times. And I don't think ever in association with a woman, maybe. But the word was powerhouse. People kept saying, "Oh, she's such a powerhouse." So I was really intimidated. And as soon as the review started, she was spectacular. I mean, her intelligence just sort of came off of her. But there was kindness too, and compassion, and great wit. And by the end of that on-site inspection, I felt like I had a new pal. And in fact, the very next year after that, I had a book that I had finished, and it was published in 1986. And Barbara offered to take it back to Washington, D.C. because she was at, I think, an art convention or some kind of developmental disabilities convention, and she hawked the book. So, and ever since then, I've always felt like I've just carried Barbara with me, her friendship, her positive energy, and I always will. And I thank you so much for that. You're amazing.
Thank you, everybody, for keeping your remarks short, but very sweet.
Hi, everybody. This is September. I want to say to Barbara Sackett. This nicest person I ever know. She's a great person. All my life, always be some special kind of special to me. Reach down to my heart. And I know I knew all my feelings. And I know I really like her a lot. She's a good person and good. Leanne Sackett is my good friend, spiritual friend of mine. I always care and always will. And that I do love her very much in my heart.
If you could lean so she can see, there we go. Right. Now you know how to speak.
Well, I think I said my thank you already when I came in, but there are a few things I left out. I think Barbara, you are such a delight to have in our council meeting a while back, and I don't know how long ago it has been, but we had two Barbara, one is Barbara Sackett and that I attend council meeting, and I am so good at leading people with special needs. And Art of Benton County have made me a very good difference in my life. I would not do the nice things like such as art, boxes, and farmer flags, and it's been a really a great thing to be part of Benton County. All the staff of the county were very supportive, and I just want to keep that going.
I'm Susan Borrell. I'm Bernie's mother. That's the name of my Borrell. My mom is the vice chair for the Benton County. And when I was on the Island Local Council with Barbara, that's when I first met her. And when I was on the council, she gave me tons of books, like about 12 of them. I said, this is yours of ancestry, please take it. But when I was reading those books, like day and night, from 9 in the morning to 12 at night, I understand why Barbara wants me to be the treasurer and the secretary. I know the answer to Barbara because I did special overstand for track and field and other sports that she did. But the reason why I want to speak on behalf of my mother is thanks for Barbara and my mom. It's because whenever Barbara says something, you must do it. You can't say no to her. But when she asked my mom to volunteer a few things, my mom said no. Either because I grew up with my mom, and trust me, if you say no to her, she will ground you.
Thank you. My name is Robert Sackett. I have the honor of being Barbara Sackett's son, one of many. Perhaps enough has been said, and I thought I might sing something. As you've heard, generations of her family goes back to the banks of the Willamette River, and she has given her life and devoted her time to the communities along the banks of the Willamette River. And so I thought that this song might speak to that. Down in the valley so low, hang your head over, hear the wind blow, hear the wind blow, dear, hear the wind blow, hang your head over, hear the wind blow, roses are red, love, and violets are blue, angels from heaven know we love you. Hear the wind blow, dear, hear the wind blow, hang your head over, and hear the wind blow.
I think that would very literally be a beautiful note to end on. I'm sure many of you want an opportunity to say something personal to Barbara and encourage you to write on the cards. But I wanted to do one quick thing before
many people have said, you don't say no to Barbara. And so many people said, I wouldn't have done X, Y, or Z if Barbara hadn't asked me. How many people can say that they did something because Barbara asked you to do it? Okay, look at all those hands. Now, Barbara says she's in a position of actually asking for help from others, not asking others to help organizations. So how many people would be willing to say yes to Barbara if she said, I need some help? Okay? So you've got a lot of support, Barbara, a lot of love, and just congratulations on all you've accomplished and all the lives you touched. Thank you.